Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, and that's all I have to say. He's still a top 5 quarterback in this league, and there's nothing really anyone can do about it.
Everyone's looking for the young guy. They're looking for McVay. I think take a shot out Todd Bowles, get him a second shot at head coach, and see if he can do it.
I don't think they will. If they don't have Anthony Davis, I'm saying it right now, if Anthony Davis is out for the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round.
It's crazy. And our kids will know how great Tom Brady is because he's going to be playing.
Yes, it is 15.0%. I swear we didn't script that.
All I could think of was Dame.
6-0. There could not be a better name.
Speaking of young guys, how about the goalie, Ottinger?
He was a 6th-round pick. This is a fairy tale story that's being written in front of our eyes.
That's what the Yankees brought Garrett Cole to do.
They didn't struggle against the Padres. The Padres didn't really put up a fight in most of the games.
Jerry Jones, hope you're listening because this is why you shouldn't have given Zeke this contract. Just thought I'd point that out.
I feel like Luka will take that next step, and if he can get a 3 ball consistently around 35%, I feel like they could become a contender.
While with the Padres and Marlins, I think it's coming in the near future.
They're my pick to win the most rings in the 2020s.
I was shocked by Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Montreal has one of the best goalies in the league with Carey Price.
People like to call them their JV team, and they just stole one of their better players.
Hi, I'm Landon Bowe, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to our 36th episode. And by the way, you did hear that right. The new intro. Hope you liked it. New liner with Landon Bowe, a goalie for the Dallas Stars that we interviewed this past week. So make sure to go check that out in the interviews playlist. Last episode, we did NHL division rankings. Then today we come back with another NHL video where we finish our first round of championship or bust series with doing today 4 teams Stanley Cup or bust. And I will let Austin lead off.
Yeah, so the first team we have has already won a championship in 2018. The Washington Capitals. They're getting older, and you'll find that as a theme today as we look at all the 4 teams that are championship or bust. What do you think about the Capitals, Kevin?
Yeah, the Capitals, their goalie, which is a huge thing in the postseason, Brandon Holtby left, and so that's a concern. And they did get Henry Lundqvist to back him up, but Henry Lundqvist had heart surgery, so he elected not to play this season. So that's rough. And they just have a rookie goaltender from last year. It's his second year right now. And then Alex Ovechkin is not getting any younger, but they do have the same top 6 forwards.
Yeah.
But they got to make it, they got to use that up, and they got to depend on some young goalies.
Yeah, this team is older, and like I said, you'll find that as a theme. They did pick up Zdeno Chara, who's 43 and still trying to win a championship. He's played well so far this season, I thought. But like you said, Ovechkin, he's getting older. He hasn't been playing as well as I imagined. He's one of the greatest goal scorers of all time, but he hasn't started off this season as hot as I would have hoped, or he would have hoped. And, I mean, this team, they've done it before, but the last 2 seasons, they've been out in the first round. They've yet to win a series since they've won their championship. They got swept against they didn't get swept, but they lost in 7 against Carolina in 2019, and then last year they lost in 5 to a New York Islanders team that just manhandled them. But it's going to be difficult because they are a team with experience, but can they use that experience to their benefit, or do they already think, oh, we've won it once, we don't want to go after it again? But this is definitely a team that I believe is championship or bust. So I think we can move on to the second team on our list, the Pittsburgh Penguins. What do you think about them, Kevin?
Yeah, the Penguins were back-to-back Stanley Cup champions in 2016-2017, and as you mentioned, people getting older is going to be a theme of the day. You can't stop Father Time unless you're Tom Brady, but I digress. Sidney Crosby is 33, and he's not getting any older. And their goalie, Matt Murray, who was there for the back-to-back championship, was sent away in a trade to the Senators. So they're relying on some younger goalies. Tristan Jarry is the first time as a full-time starter. He's doing well with he did well with a .921 save percentage, but goalies are a huge thing in the playoffs. We saw Khudobin make an incredible run with the Stars, and it's going to be hard, but you do have the offense, so they could cover it up.
Yeah, Malkin and Crosby are both getting older. Matt Murray's gone. He was traded to Ottawa. The Smiths played well so far this it hasn't played well so far this season with an 885 save percentage, but Jari, first season as a full-time starter, has been playing well. They decided to move on to Murray because they believed Jari was a better goaltender, despite the fact that Murray was their goaltender for both of their championship for their back-to-back championship runs. But again, both of these teams in the top two have young goaltenders that we need to prove themselves in a playoff scenario. And it's going to be hard for both of these teams, but you cannot count out Ovechkin or Crosby, as both of them are two of the best players in the history of hockey. So I feel like we can move on to the third team, a team that lost to the Blues in 2019 and the finals, the Boston Bruins. What do you think about them?
Yeah, the Boston Bruins have the past 2 years have lost to the eventual champions. You mentioned the Blues, and they also lost to the eventual champions last year, the Tampa Bay Lightning. And they did mention Chara, who you talked about in Capitals, but they also lost Torrey Krug, a big contributor on offense. He did have some weakness, especially on the defensive side. And speaking of the defense, the blue line is not as strong. So that's a concern. But unlike the two teams we've been talking about, the goalies have done great. They led the league in save percentage last year.
Yeah, Rask may retire after this season, even though he's younger. Yaroslav Halak's played well so far. And I mean, goaltending's how you win championships. I definitely think of these teams that are up here, they have the best chance of winning one. But like we've been mentioning, the theme here is players getting older. Marchand's not going to get any younger, so is Bergeron, and the core of this team is older. They've done it before. Same thing with some other players on their team, and it's just going to be hard for teams like this to go further than this season. Right now, I think Boston's probably the best or second best team in the league, and they need to prove it when they get to the playoffs, though.
And just one more final thought before we move on. The Boston Bruins are also in a very tough division as they have a lot of good teams. So they got to make it out of their division if they want to make it to the finals.
That's true. Right now, they lead their division, but the two teams we had before, the Capitals and Penguins, are also in the Eastern Division with the Bruins. So we have three teams that are championship or bust that may not even make the playoffs because they knock each other out. And if they meet in the
Exactly.
playoffs, at least if all three of these teams meet in the playoffs, at least two of them will face against each other, uh, which will be crazy. Which will also make for good series because they're all going to play desperately. Last, we have a team that lost to the Lightning last year in the championship round. Uh, they're also not getting any younger, and that's the Dallas Stars. What do you think about them, Kevin?
Yeah. This completes the host's favorite teams, and it's looking good in the for like the next 2 years. But the Dallas Stars, they got some older players, especially big contributor. Tyler Sagan's been out, and they were seeing that what's happening to their offense right now. Ben Bishop's also out. They also have Joe Pavelski, and both their top goaltenders are older. Hadobin's old, Bishop's old, and they don't really have any other younger guys coming up right now. Those guys are holding the spot, and they also have John Klingberg only for 2 more years. They got to work out a deal, but it's going to be difficult when you have Mira Heiskanen, who's a great player. He's going to be wanting to get paid. So I think it's definitely championship or bust because that blue line is so good when you have Klingberg for one shift and then you got Miro, and it's just going to be very difficult when to keep Klingberg while you also have the contracts of Ben and Sagan. What do you think?
Yeah, and their team, like we've been saying, is just getting older. Hudolman's get 34 right now, almost 35. Jamie Benn's getting older. Radulov's getting older. Pavelski, who's had a great start to this season, is also getting older. They just have so many players that currently are just on the tail ends of their careers while they're still playing well. And Rick Bowness is going to try to get a championship, and he may retire. We don't know. He almost made it seem like he wouldn't come back after the championship run, and I don't know if he would have came back if he even won the championship. So I think he's trying to push one for the next 1 or 2 years. And like I said, all four of these teams have something in common, and that's age, and they need to do something sooner than later. All of these teams have either been to a Stanley Cup Finals or won one. Uh, the Capitals and Penguins both won one, and the Bruins and Stars have lost the last two Stanley Cups. So all these teams are capable of getting there, But all these teams know that because they've been there before, the only thing that can make their season successful is a win of the cup.
Yeah, and just to talk about last year, I think a lot of people, this Stars team right now has a lot of, I think they have a bigger chip on their shoulder than a lot of teams that have gone to the Stanley Cup final the previous season because they didn't look that well going into the playoffs, but they turned it up. And to mention about Rick Bowness, he's been in this league for a very long time, but he's never won a Stanley Cup. And last year was the closest he came. So I definitely agree with what you said about him. And it would definitely be interesting to see what they do. But they're also going to have their young guys step up because the old guys did most of it last year. And that's including Corey Perry, who's no longer there.
Yeah, that's
So,
true. That's true for all these teams. All these teams are going to have young guys that have to step up in order for those older players to put them over the top. All these teams have their best players, or most of their best players are older, and that's why we have them at championship or bust. We're not going to put Edmonton up here because they have two of the top 5 players in the league, but they're younger. They have time to learn. They have time to grow. Same thing with the Avalanche. Same thing with the Vegas Golden Knights. All these teams have younger guys that are pushing them forward as they're vying for a championship. These 4 teams, their main players, their players that are playing their best right now, are older. Even though there's Pastrnak on the Bruins, Marchand I think is playing better than he is. Even though there's like you mentioned, Heiskanen or Klingberg on the Stars. I mean, Pavelski's playing better than they are. So we have all these players that are all these teams that are getting carried by their older guys, and they can only do it for so long, and that's why it's championship or bust. It's this season, and if you lose, who comes back? Chara may retire for the Capitals. I mean, Pavelski may retire. We don't know. I mean, there's so many older guys that just we don't know how long. We don't know when their expiration date is, and that means that they have to win a championship as soon as possible.
and I think that's a great note to end on. So, thank you for listening. And I mentioned the interviews playlist. It's on YouTube. If you're on Apple Podcast, you're just gonna have to search it up. But YouTube, they have them all. So go check those out. Go check out the recent one, Landon Bow, a Dallas Star. It was a great interview. We loved having him. So make sure to check that out. Our next episode will be MLB teams that are championship or bust. So we'll start the second part of this series.